Welcome to Connect to Joy. Your host, Carol DeChaine, is an intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and Marconic multidimensional energy practitioner. Her quest is to help you realize new possibilities, discover and release what holds you back, and enable you to manifest an inspired life filled with joy. Join us on this journey of transformation. Now, here's your host, Carol DeChaine.
Welcome, beautiful spirits. As a New Age type of person, I've always been told to trust in divine order and divine timing. But how do we know what divine order is? And how can we trust that what we're receiving and acting on is actually divine order? So today we'll work to answer that question. What is divine order? And what is divine timing? Making the choice to believe in it? 15 ways to recognize divine order and divine timing when maybe we're focusing on something different. A guided meditation to connect and release any fears holding us back in trusting our divine order. And then to look at something we're facing that we may or may not know if it's in divine order, and we're questioning that. It's kind of a double guided meditation all at the same time. And lastly, to recognize when you're off your path and how to get back into divine order. So let's start with, what is divine order? I checked online, as I do sometimes, and one place says that divine order is the alignment of all aspects of our lives. Is that even possible? The alignment of all aspects of our lives? Okay. It also says in a different place that divine order is trusting God to give you discernment, to lead, guide, direct, protect, and give you wisdom. Or maybe it is the order that comes from trusting God. That's my little 2 cents. And yet in another place online it says that divine order as a state of being implies that an external force has ordered it and it is part of your path. An external force sounds a little like Space Invaders, doesn't it? Maybe even that we have no choice in the matter and everything is predestined. And some people do believe that. But what does divine order mean to you? To me, it doesn't mean some divine will is happening and we have no choice. That the divine plan was worked out by someone else totally disconnected to our individual good doesn't feel right to me. To me, it does mean that there's a greater plan that our higher self knows we want to accomplish, not only in this life, but in our entire soul's journey. And this is only a chapter. It could be the chapter where everything goes well, or the chapter where difficulties arise and we need to find our way through them. If we can't figure out the why of what's happening, it may just be that we have to wait until we've moved on to see the bigger picture. So I'll ask, what does divine order mean to you? And then there's divine timing. What's that all about? Well, to me it means that everything happens when it's supposed to. Looking back on your life, you might see with 20/20 hindsight that everything did not only happen for a reason, but that the timing was perfect as well. But in the present, we may not see or understand which way to go if something or someone shows up. We may not know if the timing is divine or we're pushing something into being a little too soon, or we don't need it at all in our lives. You almost have to decide that divine order is worth believing in. Either the universe is one big chaotic place with no rhyme or reason, or there is at least some order to what's happening both in the universe and in our lives. Since no one really knows any of this stuff, really, ask yourself what you prefer to believe in. Do you want order of some type in the universe, or do you believe in chaos where you have no control over anything and everything happens with no discernible reason? If you believe in the chaos, you are then a victim of whatever happens and you have no power whatsoever to control any outcome, either as a human or as a divine being. This is when fear, depression, frustration, and anger can take hold because there really is no hope for a better life. You can work for it, but you may think, why should I bother? If the universe is so random that it can be all taken away from me at any time, why should I even work towards any kind of a future at all? If you do believe in some sort of divine order, there's a reason and a plan for your life, even if you don't consciously know what it is. Personally, I've always felt better knowing why something is happening, and even if I only know that there is a divine order, I can find the peace and the calm I need to move along, even in what I consider bad times. How do I know if good times that are wonderful will come from this bad situation I may find myself in? Now, you may not stay in divine order, but if that's the case, you can get back on the path you need with just a little help and taking a few minutes to feel into the situation. So far, I've asked for your definition of divine order and if you've chosen to believe in it. Next, I'll ask, how do you recognize divine order when things come up in your life, or when you're faced with choices and you don't know which way to go? I'm going to give you 15 ways to recognize divine order. Pick and choose. Some may work with some things, some may work with others, but think about them and see which ones feel right to you. Number 1 is you might recognize the divine order because you just know. There's that gut feeling, that intuitive thing about it that you go, I just know this is the way to go, or this is the path I'm supposed to take. Whether you're facing a choice or you're checking in with yourself in the middle of a goal and you just know one way or the other. The second thing you can do is if you meditate, many times divine order is that still small voice that you hear, the one urging you in a specific direction. If you pay attention, you'll know. And sometimes we even have that urging when we're done with the meditation because we've asked about it, and that urging will happen. It may also be like an illuminated path in your mind, like my life coaching practice. It was clear, and I knew the path telling me exactly how to go. And started with coaching classes, and I wanted to do intuitive work. So intuitive classes also, those were there. And then money showed up out of the blue when I asked for it. And the new type of multidimensional energy classes I wanted to take. And then I wanted to do an energy space clearing modality, a new blog, website, radio show was offered, YouTube videos. And then a shift to a podcast, and on and on and on. It was like this path that was illuminated for me. And sometimes, like in some of the old movies where you see one light turns on in one step and then the next one turns on in the next, I didn't always know the entire path, but I knew enough of it to just start and go for it. And it felt right. The fourth thing is, if it's a person, do they feel off? Just wrong, or like someone you shouldn't be around? Now, it could be a friend, it could be somebody you work with, it could be a relative that's a little harder to let go of. But sometimes a difference in vibration can make this happen. So if you're a higher vibration than them, you could feel off, or vice versa. So someone you used to like may feel off if you've recently become a little more enlightened, or had energy work that makes you feel differently. If your vibration is a little higher now, it might make that person feel off. If you hang with them enough, though, you may rub off on them, and that's called entrainment. So that sometimes, if you've done the work, the people around you who haven't done the work, which can be a little annoying sometimes, will suddenly start acting differently around you. They'll start being kinder or nicer, or they'll be easier to get along with from your point of view. And that's because of entrainment. But sometimes it may be time to move along and find different people to hang out with, if they're not the people that are supposed to be on your path in this divine order. Now, if it's a situation, feel into that too. Does it feel right or just wrong somehow? You can sometimes tell easily, and sometimes you have your limiting beliefs get in the way of the fear and the worry and all that. So this one can be a little more difficult sometimes. You might have to do something like pros and cons, just to acknowledge, okay, is this divine order? And you go, oh yeah, okay, this one feels right. Especially if you have, you work from your left brain where you want everything to be a specific way. And that's fine. But you need to be able to feel into it as well. So you need to use a choice. You need to do more than maybe just feeling into something. And number 6 is make that list out of pros and cons. You may only have one thing on one side, but it may be so important that it tips the scale in one direction, because that is your aha moment of, yes, I recognize that is the divine order. That's the way I'm supposed to go. You can also, in a situation, envision the situation coming to its fruition. What happens when you get from here to there? Does what you have to do feel right? Does where you end up feel right? Does it feel like it's part of your path or your plan? And that might help you recognize if it's in divine order going in that particular direction. Now, everyone is they're at least a little bit psychic. You can train yourself to connect higher and answer yes or no questions. Let me give you a little bit of help on this one. Now, you can connect either meditation or just however you want to do it in prayer as high as you can. Talk to your highest source. Then ask your body what a yes answer would feel like. When you think, okay, if I feel yes, what does that feel like? If I think no, what does that feel like? I get head nods for yes answers. I get a head nod that goes up. So from my chin goes where it is to up. It's like somebody grabs my chin and yanks it up. And that means it's kind of a spiritual yes. It's a higher yes. If my head nods down and my chin hits almost my chest, that means it's more 3D reality, kind of a, yes, that would be good for you kind of feeling, rather than, yes, this is your higher purpose kind of thing. That's just me. I get very few no's, but a lot of times I feel like divine order doesn't matter so much with what I'm doing unless it's something that takes me in a direction that's really important for my growth. So you may not get many no's either, but I know some people, they get yeses all the time and no no's and vice versa. If you don't reach high enough, you'll just be talking to your subconscious mind, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. So see how you can connect, how high and what it feels like. But definitely some people have a big nod like I do. Other people collapse, their body collapses, or they get butterflies, or they may get a funny feeling in their heart or tingles for yes. Whatever it is, see what feels right to you and then ask. That one's a really fun one to practice as well. Now, sometimes you might get multiple validations that where you're heading is where you're supposed to be. You can also ask for validations on any choice that you're making. You can ask for multiple validations if you're feeling particularly insecure or it's a particularly difficult choice or a life-changing choice about a person or a situation. Now, it might be that a person, they know nothing about the person or situation, will say something that validates what you're thinking about. That could be one validation. It might be a song that comes up at just the right time on the radio, if you listen, or on whatever music you listen to. It could be multiple clock readings of 11:11 or 12:12 at different times of the day where you go, what? Oh, I was just thinking about that. Okay. It could be so many different things that can validate you. You might just have someone out of the blue, like twice with the same exact wording, somebody said to me, you should be a life coach. Oh no, not a life coach, but something like a life coach. They said exactly the same words, which are a little unusual, right after I asked the universe, what is my path? That became kind of obvious when they didn't know each other, they had nothing in common, and I was told that by two different sources. That's a validation. There are a ton of different types of validations you can have, but you have to be aware once you ask for them and pay attention. You don't have to look for it in everything, but just be aware and open so that when validations do show up, or the opposite, where you hear horrible things about a place and you're going, I'm not going to move there. That sounds awful. Maybe that's something telling you that you shouldn't go. So just be aware with the validations when you ask for them that you can do that. Now, the 10th one is you might recognize divine order because someone from the past shows up that seems to be directly connected to the issue that you're facing. Maybe that person has your answer. Now, another way to recognize divine order is if you're going to church one day or even turning on the television and the subject is exactly what you're working through. Then you just stop and you listen and say, whoa, okay, that's weird. I used to listen to Joel Osteen all the time. I didn't even know when he was on the channels, but I would randomly find him at different times of the day. And I go, oh, and I turn him on and darn it, if it wasn't exactly what I needed to hear, it was what I was working on or what I was thinking about doing, but I hadn't actually put it into words yet. And it was pretty amazing. With him especially, I found that synchronicity of things I needed to hear. And some church too, and I went to church, but it was usually him that I really got that from. So that's another way you can recognize divine order. Now for divine timing, feel into the timing of the transaction or of when the person shows up or what's going on. You may just know you're supposed to do something, and it is divine order. But maybe the timing is off, and you need to do it at a future time. When my multidimensional energy class came up in Marconics, I dipped a foot in it with a session with somebody who could do it remotely from Texas, and I'm in California, because I didn't really feel right. The timing was off, and I didn't want to take classes to become a practitioner for another 6 to 8 months when they had an intensive course. I forget exactly how long it was. But I knew I was going to be doing it. It was part of the divine order plan, but it also was not happening immediately, even though somebody tried to talk me into it. It's like, no, it isn't right now. I'm in the middle of something else, two something else's, and that would be perfect timing for me. So it wasn't that I put it off because I didn't want to do it. I only had it settle into the right timing for me. If you start to do something and nothing falls into place, you probably are off in your timing. So meditate on it and try it again at a later date, because sometimes it's just the timing that's off. And you're going, wait, this isn't feeling right, but it's because the timing is off. And it's not so much that the divine order choice is wrong, just the timing. Now, if everything falls into place that you want to do with zero problems, it's definitely divine order. Okay, that's another way to recognize it. And lastly, you can recognize divine order and divine timing when possibilities open up for you that are beyond your wildest dreams, that never even occurred to you. Because this is something that you look at and you go, oh my God, that's so amazing. This house opened up I couldn't afford, but I can now because of whatever reason. Either it's a lower price or some money came in you didn't expect or something happened. And now this is amazing. I wouldn't even have looked at this place before. Maybe you go for a job you don't even think that you would be right for, or you go for one that you do think you're right for, and they give you a different job offer. They say, well, we really like you, but we think that you would go for this job instead. And you're going, what? Are you sure? I didn't know it was available, and I don't know that I qualify. Or maybe you'll go, wow, that's exactly what I wanted, but I didn't even know it was available. But you'll happen to go to the right people, and they happen to see your resume and know that you're right for it, even if they haven't even advertised it yet, maybe. So recognize that this divine order and divine timing can happen, and you just have to be willing and open for it. Right now, I want to do what I would consider a double meditation, because we're going to do it with two ideas in mind. First, we're going to do it to trust in divine order. And secondly, to take a person or a situation you aren't too sure is part of your divine order and take a look at it while you're in meditation. So first, we're going to work on trusting that divine order is right for you and that there is such a thing. All right, so if you can get comfortable right now, or you can come back later and do it, but you can also listen without having to meditate now and then come back later. So let's take a breath and start to relax. And breathe in peace and let it percolate in your being, and then breathe out any worry or concern that you're feeling. And take another breath in and out before you do the next one, and then breathe in love. And breathe out frustration. Stuff that's not going your way, let it go. And then breathe in and out again. And then breathe in joy. And breathe out any fear that you're holding on to. And then feel into your body. Just feel it being strong, being peaceful. And I want you to see golden threads of light connecting you to your highest source, or God, the universe, whatever your words would be, connecting you to your highest self, your highest source. These threads contain divine instruction to help you with any lessons you need to learn in this lifetime. The threads that have information on living your best life and being your best self. And as these threads attach themselves to you, notice that a couple of the threads may feel a little uncomfortable. If they feel clogged with doubt or concern, see the light from your highest source doubling up and dissolving that clog, kind of like a high-powered Drano, only gently. So feel those kind of clogs in the light just dissolving, and that thread of light becoming clear again. If the threads, any of them, feel uncomfortable because the information takes you out of your comfort zone, feel more threads of love coming down to you, again dissolving that discomfort. If you start to feel overwhelmed with the new information on divine order, ask it to back off a little. You are in charge of the amount of information you take in. Just feel that light and that information that you need being clear so that you know you can trust in this information. Those threads can get wider and larger and even turn into golden beacons if you like, but you'll need to widen them a little at a time to however large your vibration can handle it, because this new information on divine order can get a little overwhelming if you let it. And allow the peace to come into you, knowing that you can trust this information. Breathe into that information you're being downloaded with. And know that this is safe, that this is something you can trust, and it is from the highest source that you can connect to at this time. And keep breathing into that peace and feeling that feeling. And next, I want you to envision a person or a situation that you're questioning if it's in divine order. Just have it come to your awareness. How does that person or situation feel to you? Is it perfect or is it off in some way? And that's why you're bringing it up. Do you question why it's in your life or which choice maybe that you need to make? What are you aware of that person or situation? Shine a bright light on the person and their connection with you or that situation. And in the middle of that bright light, do you see any dark spots or anything that feels off or negative to you? Can you tell if this is in divine order? If not, ask the universe for a sign and a validation when you come out of this meditation. Ask for it to be clear, and maybe even ask for 2 or 3 validations if you need it. And now, you're going to come back into your body, and I want you to become aware of your breath. Knowing that when you come back, you're going to be clear, that you can trust divine order when it comes to you, that it can be clear for you, and that you can download information at any time that will help you. That you'll know with this particular situation or person whether it's right for you in divine order. And if you aren't sure, that you will know. You will get some validations one way or the other, whether it's time to release them or whether it's time to embrace the person or the situation. And now, as you're coming back into your body and you're aware of your breath, breathe more into your body, grounding it back in again so your consciousness is all the way there and aware. And in 1, 2, 3, you're wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. And you've closed your subconscious mind so that you can be fully conscious. How did that feel? Do you feel like divine order is something that you can trust in a deeper way now? That it's information you get directly from your source if you ask for it that way? And what do you feel about that person or that situation you brought up? Can you tell if they're in divine order, or do you need some validations? And did you ask for some, just to be on the safe side, maybe? I want to go into now how you know when you aren't in divine order, and how do you get back in the flow when you need to? Well, first, you know you are not in divine order when things keep going wrong. No matter what you do, some sort of outside block keeps happening, stopping you from moving in the direction you want. That one is a, what's going on feeling when you get it, or you might get really frustrated because you don't know why something's happening. Now, I knew someone who wanted to move to a different state, but job issues came up, health issues came up, money issues came up, and when the person decided not to move, everything fell back into place again, and everything was fine. Kind of gave him the feeling that maybe he should not be moving at that particular time, at least not to that particular place. You might think that's fear and your subconscious is blocking. But if you check in with what you really want and feel it deeply, it may just not be what you're supposed to do. And the universe is telling you that by putting the blocks in the way. Secondly, you can tell that you're kind of out of sync, and this is different than the first one, when other priorities show up that you feel you absolutely have to take care of, and maybe they weren't there before. All of a sudden, there's all these priorities, 1, 2, 3 in your way, and you're going, what do I do with these priorities? Can someone else take care of them? Maybe it doesn't have to be you that's doing it. Maybe someone else can handle those priorities. And then look at, are these priorities really important? Or are they what seem like a perfectly good excuse not to go after something or say yes to what's knocking at your door? Maybe they're just excuses, and it's your subconscious going, I'm a little scared. This is a little too much for me. I don't know about that. So if you have either of those things, how do you get back in the flow? Now, meditation is always good, but just checking in with your best connection to your higher self is all you really have to do. See if what appears to be holding you back is actually doing it, or if your subconscious is just setting up blocks because the person or situation is kind of out of your comfort zone. So check into that as well when you're meditating. Check to see if you adjust how or what you're doing or going about with the person or the situation. Maybe it could be tweaked a little bit to see if then the flow happens. Maybe you're going after something and the divine order is almost in the right place, but maybe you're trying to impose something of your own will in it that doesn't work. It doesn't make it part of divine order, so therefore it doesn't quite fall into place the way you want it to. When you feel like you're in a canoe in the middle of a stream, you've taken your paddle out of the water and the canoe is moving in a direction effortlessly, then you're in the flow. That would look like using the same scenario as moving out of state. So maybe you mention to your spouse that you want to move out of state and where you want to move, and they're totally on board from the beginning. You do one interview and are offered the job, which has maybe a great salary and is a lot of what you want, or exactly what you want, and you didn't expect to do it. You were just experimenting to see if maybe you could get a job out of state. Or maybe you mention it to your boss that there's a place you can transfer to, and they go, well, yeah, sure. And you're going, what? Okay, when do you think that something like that might happen? And they go, oh, you can go next month, as soon as you finish this project, or whatever, and it might fall perfectly in with your plans. You might put your house on the market and it sells immediately and for a high amount. If you have children, maybe even they are on board with you, and the school district where they're going is terrific. That's what divine order looks like, in the opposition to everything seeming to go wrong. But be flexible. Allow your highest and best to come in. If you want something specific, you can always say this or something better, because we never know what amazing possibilities the universe has in store for us, because we may not even think we deserve them, but all of a sudden they'll be handed to us if we're in that path that we need to be on. I asked first, do you believe in divine order? Or do you believe the universe is in absolute chaos with no plan? If you do believe that there is an order to the universe, wouldn't it be wonderful if you got into the flow, knowing you don't have to if you don't want to, that you can struggle and go in a different direction if you like? But why bother when it takes so much energy and the result is way less than what we'd like? And second, can you recognize it when everything is in divine order, knowing that everything seems to fall into place when you don't struggle? Or if you have chosen a path and all you get is obstacles that come up? Following divine order isn't always easy because of our fears and our insecurities, but once we step beyond our fears, we can definitely step into that flow. Then it may seem much more effortless than we expect. Just don't fight it and trust when it feels right, that you've made the right choices and are going on the path that's best for you. Thank you for joining me here today. If you'd like to know more about spiritual or life or business coaching with me or Marconic's multidimensional energy, please check out my website at www.connecttojoy.com, just like this podcast. And follow me on Instagram at connecttojoy as well. Until next week, be courageous and reach higher. Just take one step at a time on your journey. Get the help you need and get out there and find your joy and trust in divine order because you deserve it.
Thank you for listening to Connect to Joy. If you love the show, make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast. And subscribe so you never miss an episode. Contact the host, Carol DeChaine, with questions and comments, ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to become a guest. And remember, transformation is a journey and not an end destination. So be kind to yourself, because you are already enough to have the joyful, limitless life that you desire.